Welcome back everyone. In today's video we're going to be talking about our range of gas Soto stoves we keep here at Taunton Leisure, and at the end of the video we've got an exciting competition announcement. So in today's video we're going to be looking at three different stoves. We've got the Amicus sat up here, the WindMaster down here, and the Fusion Trek down here. And in today's video we're going to go through each model individually, talk about the different specs it has, the different pros and cons, and really help you decide which one might be the right one for you. Before we jump in there, a couple facts about Soto. The first is that the first product they ever created was a weed burner. This was in the 1970s in Japan, and they're having a lot of issues with weeds, so they designed a burner that could help burn off the weeds. And from then on, they realized just how much they could move that technology over to stoves. The second is that Soto have actually produced the burners for the last two Olympic torches. So they produced the burners for the recent Paris Olympics and also for the Beijing Olympics back in 2022. So without further ado, let's jump into the Amicus stove. Okay, so in front of me we have the Amicus stove. Soto have designed this to be an affordable stove for people who are looking to get into backpacking while camping and want a really high quality product but without the big price tag. So there's a few things that this stove doesn't have, and it's a little bit more stripped back than some of the other models we're going to look at today, but what it does do is delivers a really high quality product that's still lightweight and packable, under £50 at the time of filming. Just because it's on the cheaper end of the spectrum for Soto doesn't mean that they've skimped. It's still an incredibly high quality product, and they want it to be able to offer people who are just getting started and don't want to sort of break the bank something that would last a really long time, perform well, and is still a compact and lightweight package. So what we'll do is we will start at the top and make our way down. The stove itself weighs just 75 grams, so it's incredibly light, and it also packs down to a really good size. At the top of the stove we see 4 prongs to hold our pot. These are really sturdy, can take a good amount of weight, and also because there's 4 of them, it's a really nice stable platform for your cooking. Whether you're using a tool pot for boiling water or a low maybe frying pan for cooking something a little bit more adventurous. These prongs have got a little bit of texture to the top of them just to help with any slipping and sliding of your pot on the surface. Like I said, it's a really nice stable platform for cooking, whether that's as simple as boiling water or maybe making something a little bit more adventurous. To create a more compact packing size, these arms fold down. It's a really nice, simple system, which helps keep the cost down, but also just means that there's nothing really to go wrong. They have little latches at the top. We'll show you close-ups. You literally lift it up off the latch and put it down. They are slightly spring-loaded, so they're not going to come out by accident. So there's a little bit of retention there. So it's not just going to pop out when you're boiling your water, but it means setting up the stove and taking it back down again is super simple. And once they're down, you end up with a really nice compact stove system. So we'll put those back up. As you can see, it's nice and quick. And now we'll talk about the burner. So if you're using a 250 gram gas canister, you're going to get about 1.5 hours of burn time out of this stove, so it's relatively efficient. The stove itself has a really good output, and you'll see around the top here we've got a very small skirt, and again we'll show you a close-up because we know everything on this stove is quite small. What this is designed to do is to mitigate the effects of wind on the stove, or help mitigate the effects of wind on the stove. So this very small skirt around the top stops the wind coming straight across the burner output points, and just gives you a better chance of getting a timely boil when you're out in slightly more challenging conditions. In a really, really strong windy situation, you're going to want some shelter, which is the same with most stoves. But this is just going to really help with those sort of low-level breezes, that little bit of wind that can be a bit of a nuisance if you don't have it, and just helps keep that wind off of the main burner itself. And then making our way down, we've obviously got our adjustment valve, which regulates how much gas is flowing through the system. If you're looking to boil water, chances are you'll want it on full bore, open as wide as it can to get a really nice quick boil time. But you can also lower the amount of gas input by just twisting it a certain way, and you can then simmer on this stove, which is a really nice feature, especially if, like I said at the start, if you're looking to cook something that's a little bit more interesting than a simple boil in the bag, then this is a really nice feature to have. It means you can simmer your water if you want to, but also if you're using a sort of a frying pan or something, you can have a bit more control over the output from the stove. So a really good option for anyone that's looking for an introduction to wild camping, a stove that performs really well and gives you a really good high quality product, but at a slightly more affordable price. So next up we have the WindMaster, which is a really good stove for anyone that's looking to take the next step up from the Amicus. Maybe you've had that for a few years and you're looking to take a step up to something a bit more powerful and also a little bit more featureful. and that is where the WindMaster really comes in. This is a much better stove for challenging and tough conditions. If you're going out in really tough, windy conditions, then this stove will certainly be able to handle them for you. We'll sort of start at the top and make our way down. The first thing just to talk about is that from a 250 gram gas canister, you're still going to get an hour and a half of output. And also you're going to be able to boil 2 cups of water in about 2.5 minutes. So it's got a really good boil time on it. And if paired with the right stove, you might even see quicker boil times than that. We'll start at the top and we'll make our way down. The first thing to talk about is the pot stand itself. So in its current configuration, the most compact way to store it is by folding all these little arms in, which makes a much slimmer profile and much easier to pack. And then when they're out, you can see this gives a really good stable platform for a pot. It's a very wide open platform, so it's going to hold a bigger pot if needed, but there's no chance of you losing stability on this. It's a much bigger surface area than what we've just looked at, so an incredibly stable platform and a really nice easy deployment system as well. These are just on simple hinges and just sort of flop out, fold out. We do also see some indents in the Soto stove, which means that if you were to buy one of the Soto pots with a heat exchanger, this slots into the little slots here and creates a really nice positive connection between the two, meaning that that pot is not moving anywhere. If you choose not to, and to choose to use a different pot, we have got those friction points still on the top of each of the arms to give you a really nice secure platform for cooking on. The next thing to talk about with this, and it comes back to weight, is that there are different options with the WindMaster. So the first is this configuration here, which weighs, I think it's 87 grams. The next option is one that weighs 60 grams, and that is to remove this system in its entirety. So this little bit comes off completely. It's got a spring-loaded hinge on it. So as you can see, it moves open and closed. And this can be either stored completely separately if you want a slightly more low-profile final product that can just be chucked in the top of your bag somewhere safe, and then you've got a slightly slim one, or it can be discarded completely, and this can be your burner system. Obviously, it's a far less stable platform, but if you're looking to reduce some weight, that unit there is 60 grams instead of 87 grams. There is a third option. You can buy another set of these called the Triflex. It's an incredibly lightweight version of this with 3 arms that come out from it, and that makes your stove lighter again, but still gives you the stable platform to cook on. That is sold separately, and we will show you that on screen here. And it's a very lightweight, very sort of simple design to really help keep that weight down, but still give you a really good stable cooking platform. Next, we'll talk about the head itself. Obviously, like we said, 2 cups of water in 2 minutes 30 seconds. We're seeing a much bigger wind curtain on the top of the stove here to help mitigate the effects of wind. What we also see is the actual arms themselves, if we reattach these, sit much closer to the pot. So you can see here, we'll show you close-ups, that the actual where the pot sits will be much closer to the burner, and that again helps mitigate any issues with wind. It means you're going to get a consistently good boil time and a consistently good output no matter what the conditions are. Making our way down, we also see a regulator on this stove which helps regulate the gas going into the stove so you have a consistent flame. So obviously gas and the pressure within that cylinder changes depending on temperature, and by having a regulator on your stove, the output that the stove gives as its final product will remain more consistent with a regulator than without. It's also worth noting that this comes with a piezo built in, so you'll see this little red button connected to the top here which creates a spark to help light the stove. So in some aspects, there's no reason to carry a lighter. However, we would really recommend you take a second ignition source. Piezos do run out eventually, and you don't want to be caught out on the hill without any way of lighting this stove. Let's say this finally gives up the ghost after having it for a number of years. The last thing you want to not have is a hot meal that evening, especially if you've been out doing a lot of stuff and exerted yourself. So yeah, just something to consider there. Worth taking a lighter with you, but you do have an ignition point on the stove itself. And then finally, we still have our valve on the side, which allows us to change, reduce or increase the amount of gas flow to the stove itself, so we can simmer things on this stove. A really nice option for those of you that are looking to take a step up from the Amicus that we're just looking at, or for those of you that are looking to move to a stove that has a really good output, great boil times, but is a little bit more flexible and gives you a bit more protection and safety in more challenging conditions. And then finally we have the Fusion Trek, which, as some of you may have already noticed, is a very different stove system. The two we've just looked at are on canister stove systems, so they mount directly onto the gas canister, and then that gas canister acts as a stand of sorts for the stove. Whereas this is completely standalone to the gas canister itself, so the gas canister sits in one place, the stove sits in another. Now this has positives and negatives to it. The negative is that these don't tend to pack down as small, and they do tend to be a little bit heavier. Within reason, the weight can be changed depending on the brand and what they've decided to do with it, but pack size, they all tend to be bulkier than your on-stove options. We'll do some side-by-sides in a second just to demonstrate how that is. In terms of positives though, and it's probably the biggest positive for this kind of stove system, is that it is extremely stable. Obviously the ones we've just looked at, you can put pot supports on to make sure that, or stands, sorry, to make sure that it's as stable as possible, but it's quite a tall system. So your pot, once it's on the top of that system, is quite tall, and it's also very narrow. So you've got quite a lot of weight on something that can pivot side to side. Whereas this system, as you can see, stays very low to the ground because it's not the height of it is not dictated by the size of the gas canister, which makes it an exceptionally stable system. So if you're a little bit unsure of where you're going to be camping, if you think there's going to be potentially a lot of uneven ground, the chance of you getting a flat spot is very, very slim, then this might be a slightly better option for you. It's a very nice system, it's just a case of it being a little bit bulkier. In terms of power output, we're looking at exactly the same as the WindMaster, so you're looking at similar boiling times, and I would imagine similar gas efficiencies, which was a 250 gram canister, would give you an hour and a half of runtime. But it's just a more stable system. You're going to be able to put slightly bigger pots on this because of that, so if you are looking to maybe cook up for a couple people at a time rather than just yourself, or you are looking to do something that's less boil in the baggy and more get some proper food on the go, then this might be a slightly better option for you. Now this is also still using a regulator, just like the WindMaster. It's part of their mini regulator system series, so it is going to have a better control in different conditions and different temperatures, meaning that gas output, no matter the temperature, is going to be the same, or the flame is going to be the same size and same power. In terms of how you pack it away, you would obviously unscrew the gas canister just like with the other stoves, and then these legs here, 3 of them, all fold in on themselves. So you've got a relatively thin package. Again, we'll show you a close-up because it's very hard to see on camera from a distance. It's a relatively thin, compact package, and it would slide down the back of your pack relatively nicely. The width of it is dictated by the burner because obviously that can't be folded, and it is a relatively large burner dish. But overall, a relatively good pack size. It's just a little bit bulkier than the other options we've looked at, but if you're looking to cook some slightly different food, you're looking to use some bigger pans, cook for a group, then this might be a better option for you, and you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of space in your pack for the extra convenience and stability that this stove would offer you. Weight-wise, 180 grams for this, so it is a bit heavier, almost, well, over twice as heavy as the other system we looked at, and most of that will be to do with the fact that this is all separate, so there's a few more added components as part of the stove. Other than that, it's relatively simple. We are still seeing that wind curtain that we've talked about throughout the video on the different stoves. This is quite a big one, and we have got a relatively big burner head as well. Obviously, because you're potentially going to be putting bigger pans on this, bigger burner head means that you're going to heat up the bottom of the pan a little bit better. And then this wind curtain, really nice and tall, just to give you a little bit of additional protection from the wind. Like I said, with the wind burner, the pot would sit very, very low on this stove, which is again going to help with that wind, poor conditions. It's a really good option for you. And it's just going to help with a better and more consistent boiling time when it comes to boiling water or cooking. And then as we come down this cord, which is what feeds the stove, we're obviously met with our gas canister, and that is where our valve system is located to regulate how much gas is flowing through the system and how big or small the flame is on the end of it. And obviously if you want to simmer something, you can do that with this stove. So in terms of who it's for, it's a really good option if you're not a big fan of those on-top gas under stoves. Maybe you think they're a little bit precarious, you're a little bit nervous camping, maybe you like to cook in your porch and you don't want something that's quite so tall with boiling water sat on top of it, that close to you, then this is a really good alternative. You do sacrifice a little bit of bulk, a little bit of weight, but overall you're getting a far more stable stove solution. So before we finish the video, which one is the right one for you? Now we've got a selection of incredibly good stoves here, all of a really high quality, and choosing the right one is going to really be based on what you intend to use it for, when you intend to use it, and also your budget as well. If you're looking for something because you're just getting into hiking or mountaineering or multi-day trekking, then the Amicus is a really good option for you. You're getting the high quality materials and build quality of Soto, but in a slightly more affordable package. If you've got a little bit more to spend, or you're a seasoned outdoorist and you're looking for your next stove and you want something that could potentially perform in slightly more challenging conditions, you like the idea of having a regulator and a piezo igniter on your stove, then the WindMaster is a really good option for you. If you really like the idea of the WindMaster and you think it's an incredible stove, you like the idea of that high output power, but you're just a little bit worried about having such a tall, thin device, then going for something like the Fusion Trek is a really good option for you. It's much lower to the ground, it's going to be more stable. And like I said, it's all down to personal preference and where you feel you are within the market and where you feel you are within this selection of stoves, what you intend to use it for. You know, if you intend to use it in really harsh conditions, really tough conditions, then you're probably going to be looking more towards your WindMaster or your Fusion Trek, just because that's slightly higher output and the fact that the pot sits a lot closer to the actual burner itself, giving you a slightly better boil time even in tougher conditions. If, however, you're going to be using it for a few times out of the year, you're not going to be going out sort of every weekend, and you're just looking to start getting into camping, you don't want to sort of blow your entire budget on your stove, then looking at something like the Amicus is a much, much better option. So I hope that's answered all your questions. If you've got any more, leave them down in the comment section below. And just like we promised at the start of the video, we have got a little bit of a competition. And this competition is actually being run by Soto themselves. And it's going to be giving a purchaser of one of the stoves from any of their premium retailers the chance to go to Japan. While you're over there, you'll get to see how they made the Olympic torch burner. You'll get to construct your own wind burner stove. And you're also going to be able to climb Mount Fuji. So a really awesome competition. If you want a chance to enter, all you've got to do is pop into your Soto retailer and pick up a stove of your choosing, and then you've just got to upload the receipt to the website. We'll put all the details and all the terms and conditions in the description below so you can have a little look at that. But a really awesome competition from Soto, and one that I think is well worth entering. If you've got any questions, leave them down in the comment section below, and like always, we'll see you next time.